10 words that are connected around the world. Number 10. Pajamas. Hindi and Urdu word, pajama, referred to loose pants tied around the waist, a popular fashion in India. After colonization, the British took the clothing home, and over time, the style and word grew far beyond the subcontinent. What is particularly notable is how far it has gotten, and in such a short time. In almost any language you could name, you can find a derivative of pajama, whether it is bijama in Arabic or pisama in Hungarian. The word pajama even appears in languages like Basque and Irish. Add to that the fact that many of these languages must have previously had some term for sleepwear. It was by no means a new concept, even though previous terms may have been simple compound words, such as nightgown in English. They were still doing a pretty sufficient job for so many languages. To incorporate this new term and use it widely is incredibly unusual. Imagine if kilts suddenly became highly fashionable, and within less than a century, every language was using kilt as a word for skirts. You would accept it, because that would be awesome, and you would be dead, but it would be strange nonetheless. Similarly, pajamas is a great word, and fun to say, but the takeover is pretty hard to explain. Number 9. Okay. Often cited as one of the most well-known words in the world, okay is doing pretty okay for itself. A common story behind the creation of OK was that 1830s newspapers in the US went mad for abbreviations. OK came about as a joke. The abbreviation OK was used to mean oral correct, an intentional misspelling of all correct which was presumably hysterical in the 1830s. OK. Well, there are other theories. Some claim it is a corruption of aux Ks, French for from Ks, referring to a Haitian port with good rum. Or maybe it's from the Greek olakala, meaning it is good or all good, or even derived from the Scots phrase ochai. Whatever its origin, the word has quickly spread to be used and understood in almost every country to mean that everything is alright. There are several theories behind OK's easy travel. One is aesthetics. The curved O and straight-lined K side by side is distinctive. Another is that the sounds O, K, and A exist in most languages. First mentioned in the slang dictionary of vulgar words, OK hasn't really been accepted into formal speech, though it is recognized by several dictionaries. However, it has found worldwide fame and has become an indispensable go-to word for average situations. Number 8. Taxi. Taxi is another relatively recent word that has been incorporated into many languages. From the term taximeter cab tax from the medieval Latin taxa for tax or charge, the shorthand word taxi has become commonplace all over the world. Though it changes language to language, the sound is almost always taxi or very close. It may simply be that it is a short and easy word that describes a more complicated idea. In Japan, taxis were bureaucratically referred to as Ippunja Kyaku Ryoka Kujidosha, motor vehicle for general passengers and travelers. Saving much ink, the word Takashi became commonplace from the start. It may have been a word simply popularized elsewhere by tourism. However, with the US, Europe, and Japan all essentially using the word taxi, most countries were importing their vehicles from a country that used the word. British cars were sent to India, and brands like Toyota and Ford became commonly used as taxis around the world, making traveling one word easier for tourists everywhere. Number 7. Mama. The word mama is the same in a startlingly high number of languages, or at least very similar, such as ziyama in Korean or mami in Czech. Equivalent words for fathers are also similar, but vary more widely. This consistent term for mother may lure you into thinking that this word was so strong, so integral, that it survived from early humanity and spread throughout the world. The real story is even stranger. It independently arose in many different languages. How could this happen? Research suggests it has everything to do with early speech development. A baby's babbling is not a series of random noises and follows a pattern. In vocal experimentation, babies often arrive at the R sound first. It is the easiest sound to make, as you do not have to do anything with your mouth to make it. Closing our lips to create an MMM also comes quite naturally. Think of how often you still do MMHMM. These sounds combined create a common first word, mama. The primary caregiver feels that she is being addressed. The situation plays out all over the world. The same sounds, the same interpretation, the same word. And so, whenever you want to call out for your mama, wherever you are in the world, people will know what's up. Number 6. Haha. Haha is our go-to sound for describing laughter. It has been that way since we first started writing it down all the way back to Chaucer. Other onomatopoeic variations, such as he, or ho, just cannot compete. And, looking at the way that other cultures write out laughter at a keyboard, it appears that this is mirrored across much of the world. Each language, of course, has different ways of expressing and typing this haha sound. For instance, Spanish will be jaja. In Thailand, the number 5 is pronounced ha, so they will often express laughter on the keyboard by typing 55,555. This common haha makes for an easy concept to translate in case you want to be dryly sarcastic in other languages. If you would like to express genuine mirth, then you can, of course, just laugh. Number 5. Guitar. The word guitar is complicated to trace, as it has applied to different stringed instruments throughout history. It wasn't until the 19th century that a 6-stringed instrument closely resembling the versatile and commonplace guitar we know today was developed. This modern guitar was derived from Spain and a medieval instrument known as a guitarra latina. Much of Europe takes the word from this. However, going back further, the Spanish word has roots in Greek word kithara and Arabic jitara. However, both the word and instrument go much further back than this. Tar is a Hindi word for string, derived from more ancient Persian and Sanskrit. Tar is seen in many other instrument names, such as the tar and sitar. This long evolution crisscrossing continents created a common word for the instrument across many cultures, and eventually, it integrated into a vast array of languages. Incredibly, at the end of the process, we, almost, all still describe a fender with the same guitar sound. Number 4. Cha. China exported tea, both the product and the word, around the world. Actually, they exported two different words. Tea was pronounced cha in most dialects across China, and this pronunciation was spread via the Silk Road into Persian and then Urdu, Arabic, Russian, and eventually as far as East African languages such as Swahili. However, a particular dialect pronouncing cha as te just so happened to be spoken at two major ports for Dutch trade, the coastal province of Fujian and the island of Taiwan. From Dutch, the word spread into Europe as well as the west coast of Africa, and influenced a large number of languages from that point. There are languages that use neither word. Unsurprisingly, they tend to be countries where tea grows naturally. However, you'll find the Chinese terms in almost 200 different languages. Cha derivatives are more common, however, and often a name for a type of tea in languages that don't use one. Chai tea, for instance, is an Indian tea now popular across much of the world. Armed with both words, you can ask for a cup of tea almost anywhere in the world. Number 3. Cave. Coffee, cave, kava. Make these three sounds, and you've come pretty close to saying coffee in most of the languages in the world. That is because most languages borrowed the Turkish word cave, not to be confused with Java, which is a slang term from referring to Javanese coffee, which, in turn, was based on the older Arabic word kahwa, and none have drifted too far from that point. In fact, English uses one of the least recognizable forms. Much of Europe changed V to F such as the French café, but the Dutch also changed the A to an O, leaving languages such as English, German, and Afrikaans with the sound kofi. All, however, are still very recognizably tied to the Turkish word. The popularity of the drink spread quickly, and the word came with it. Caffeine has remained immensely popular. Should you prefer your caffeinated drinks cold, the global dominance of Coca-Cola means you can probably request this in most places and be understood too. Or you can just yell out the word caffeine. It too has hardly changed across languages. Although perhaps it's better to stick with asking for a drink. People simply yelling out caffeine in public spaces may not get the fine cup of coffee they desire. Number 2. Hoo-hoo. A 2013 study lauded HUD as the most universal word in the world. Despite this, the word is not the same across languages. The thing is that, while it doesn't sound exactly the same, there are an incredibly narrow set of parameters that it adheres to. The equivalent words are always monosyllabic, have a questioning intonation, and all have similar vowel and consonant sounds and formation. This may not sound incredible, but a word with these rules is an exceptional discovery. Imagine finding that dog or chair had an innate form replicated independently across the majority of languages, and though many might not think of how as a word, it is, with a place in the dictionaries and everything. Specifically, it is a sound that needs to be learned, and not one we naturally produce. Bizarrely, so is most of the noise we make when we sneeze. So, if you have an explosive sneeze, you are the only one to blame. This is an important point, as otherwise, "huh" would simply be another naturally occurring sound, such as a grunt or cry. The study suggested that these similarities exist, since "huh" has such a unique function. It has to be easily slid into a conversation without disrupting the initial speaker too greatly. As each language evolved, they all independently found that this type of sound best suited the job. With this level of similarity, it is a word that can transcend language barriers. It's helpful too, as talking to someone who doesn't speak your language is going to lead to a whole lot of harm. Number 1. Chocolate. Chocolate is another addiction that became unbelievably popular around the world, while the name remained largely unchanged. The word originates in the Nahuatl word xocolatl. In Aztec culture, these cacao beans were widely consumed as a beverage called cacahuatl, a probable origin for the word cacao. The Spaniards coined the term chocolate, and the word passed from Spanish into many other European languages, including English. As with coffee, it is perhaps the speed at which new cultures picked up chocolate that kept the name from changing, with dedicated chocolate houses springing up in Europe in the 17th and early 18th centuries around a product that had become immediately culturally significant. Today, chocoholic is an actual word in actual dictionaries, so not a whole lot has changed.